Scarecrow sees you when you're sleeping.
It's not a childhood scarecrow. His name is Wurzel Gummidge. Yeah, like why did the scarecrow win an award?
Because in Japan, the Scarecrow is more so viewed as a character of wisdom.
He's like, don't wear white after Labor Day, otherwise the scarecrow is going to come into your house and kill you. It's like...
you are, in fact, Joe's Scarecrow Village. Welcome back to the Helpful Gardeners podcast. Well, this week, we're talking all about scarecrows. We're continuing on our spooky month exploration. And this week, I thought it was really cool because, you know, in the spirit of harvest, scarecrows are like guardians of the harvest, right? I found this fact that said that unchecked birds can completely destroy an entire crop. If each bird eats just 4 grapes a day, a flock of 5,000 starlings will consume 1 ton of food over a 10-day period. Like, they could devastate a harvest.
Oh my God. That would, unchecked, that could bankrupt a winery.
100%. Yeah.
Like that's because when I think of things like that, I think more of human encroachment, right? Like back in the day, you know, small settlements, small villages, still lots of woodland. We grow, we cultivate and hybridize all of these foods that are much tastier. Mm-hmm. So it's like the birds. Well, like, hey, can we go get some grapes? And the mom's like, we've got grapes at home.
Absolutely.
No, like these grapes, mom, you suck.
You're totally right? Yeah. Like they don't know.
Yeah.
But the scarecrow name means figure of straw and old clothes made to resemble a person and set in a green field or garden to frighten crows and other birds from the crop. An interesting thing is an older name of scarecrow was shoyhoy. Shoyhoy.
I've made yeah, I could see a bird making that sound, but not a crow.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
Caw,
yeah,
caw.
why weren't they called like caw-caw?
Yeah, like that's a crow sound. Shashoy or what? No, I don't see that. But yeah, they're inherently scary.
Yeah, that is like their main job, whether it's to scare away birds, whether it's to scare away humans. Yeah. Maybe it's to mark a territory. How far back do you think scarecrows go?
Okay, I have 2 answers.
Okay.
So either of these are going to be correct. I think it either goes back to like late medieval time, England, Europe. Right. I should say like right before the Industrial Revolution. Okay. And if not, we're going to go back even further.
Aliens.
Which are scary in their own right.
Yes.
Like the Roman Empire.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Those are my 2 guesses. Which one is correct?
Neither. So scarecrows actually go back to the Egyptian period. They've been said to been hired to like watch over crops, like basically just like, you know, sticks. Sometimes people use to just look over the crop and to make sure that no birds get it.
That's not really a scarecrow. That's a person yelling at birds. Like
maybe they weren't called scarecrows. See, it's interesting because like the name scarecrow came from like the 1500s. So like, you know, the Egyptian period was long before that. So they called it something else. Medieval times also used this scarecrow type of thing. But again, it was a lot more of like utilizing children to scare the birds out of the crops. And
I've got a solution. Let's let a bunch of kids be in the field.
I don't even think they're tall enough.
If I had to pick between a bunch of kids in my garden or crows in my garden, I'm taking the crows every time. I just think there'll be less damage.
Yeah, well, and I think that was kind of why more like solid structures were created. There was mention online about, you know, the plague, unfortunately, of, you know, making it more of a desire to use more structures. Things really started to shift sort of around like World War I, World War II. We see more modern technologies emerge like pesticides or reflectors or digital devices, sensors, that kind of thing. And we'll get into that sort of at the end of the episode on more of the common things that you can do for your garden.
But I mean, that makes sense as well. And especially for us in Alberta, because think about the size of some of those fields.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, they live, it's not even a working farm. They live on an acreage.
Yeah, exactly.
one tiny little straw dude in the corner is not keeping the crows. The crows are like, oh, well, I can fly away before he gets to me. I'm okay.
Yeah, totally.
How many scarecrows would you need in order to do the job? So I can see why there would have been an evolution in it.
Exactly. Let's look around scarecrows like in a cultural sense around the world. Obviously, we know that here they are more of that guardian type of behavior, sometimes feared. So I was noticing that, especially in North America, there's a lot more like horror associated with scarecrows. Obviously, we have the most famous scarecrow, which is from The Wizard of Oz back in 1939. He was in search of a brain, which was interesting because in Japan, the scarecrow is more so viewed as a character of wisdom. So they look at somebody to look up to. For example, there's this popular anime called Naruto, and one of the mentors in the show is named Kakashi, which translates to scarecrow. So he's more of seen as like a wise character, whereas we fear the scarecrow.
Oh, by the way, that movie coming out, Wicked.
Yes.
So Jenny and I watched the Broadway version when we were in New York.
So jealous.
We went to Broadway and we saw it, and you get the origin of the scarecrow.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they give the origin of the scarecrow, the cowardly lion, and the Tin Man.
Can you spoil?
No.
Okay.
Let's just say.
Well, if you know, you know.
Let's just say they're created by the Wicked Witch, but not in a bad way. The Wicked Witch might not be so wicked.
Okay. Ooh, okay. I like that.
I'm not going to spoil anything.
Stay tuned, right?
Yeah, but
that's cool.
Every time you think of a scarecrow, you think of that like the friendly buffoon, not smart, like and even in the horror movies, they're never portrayed as intelligent. They're portraying as very singular driven, whether it's to kill you or scare you or whatever. But they have one purpose, and in Japan, they're seen as wisdom.
Completely opposite, which makes sense because if you think about a scarecrow, they're in a field, they're observing, right? And it's almost like that you're perceived to be smarter when you say less. So maybe there's something to be said about that.
The guru on the mountaintop,
yes,
like the nature.
Exactly.
Why did the scarecrow win an award?
Why?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Oh, God. No.
Scarecrow joke.
I told you my chicken joke, right?
No.
Why is the chicken so funny? I think I did.
Why?
Because.
You didn't.
I didn't tell you that joke. There you go. So I'm also noticed that both DC and Marvel feature scarecrows both as villains, and they're not related whatsoever. So
Marvel has one? I know the DC
and
one.
DC, apparently, this is what I found out. There's like a whole horror genre of scarecrows. The 1981 Dark Knight of the Scarecrow.
Jesus.
So
that's
it's really scary. It's like so for those of you that can't see, which by the way, we do have a video portion of the podcast now, which you can access on YouTube and on Spotify. So you can actually see what we're talking about. But this one is so scary. They've got the straw. They've got like this like old trench coat type of thing. And then they've got just like this burlap sack over top with just two holes for eyes and then a mouth.
And it's hollow.
It's hollow. Yeah. It's very
That's horrific.
Freaky. We've also got like a horror comedy that came out a while ago, and that one was called Amityville Scarecrow. And they thought, that was the actual horror one. Yeah, so it was a low budget horror, Amityville Scarecrow, and it was so good they made a sequel. I have not seen this one, but I love how they.
I'm not going to watch it because personally, I'm waiting for them to finish the trilogy.
Really?
Total side note, I've been to Amityville.
Oh, why?
I was really intrigued by the Amityville horror house.
Wow.
And it's right in Long Island.
Yeah.
And my aunt used to live in a town called Bayshore, which is about 25 minutes away.
Oh, so you're in the area.
Yeah,
might as well.
Exactly. So you can literally, like you're driving down the Long Island Expressway and you see a big sign, Amityville.
And does it look just like it did?
Back then, yeah, basically. I asked Jenny if she wanted to go, and it was a hard no.
Big nope.
Yeah. So I Googled it because I was curious, but apparently too many tourists were showing up. So the town of Amityville, I believe they changed the street name and the house designation number because the people they bought the house and they live in it as a family. And apparently people were just like ripping into the driveway and doing selfies and walking around and treating it as like a museum, a a sideshow.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So they did change it, but I did see it back in 89 and 90.
Oh my
gosh. I want to say I went to the Amityville Horror House.
Well, like that's exactly what happened.
They didn't have a scarecrow.
They didn't have a scarecrow?
That's all I'm saying. Maybe he was out shooting his movie.
Maybe he wasn't outstanding in his field.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He was outstanding in the movies.
But yeah, there was like a whole bunch of different like types of like horror scarecrows. But I know before we sat down for the show, you were telling me about like a childhood scarecrow that like blew me away.
Credit where credit's due. He's got a name. It's not a childhood scarecrow. His name is Wurzel Gummidge.
Like what? Like who comes up with that name?
It's a fantastic name. I loved Wurzel Gummidge. I watched it every week without fail. I have no idea what, and I use this term loosely, the plot was. But it was a scarecrow who came to life. Oh, I remember something. When he wanted to change his mood, he changed his head. So he could pop his head off. So if he was angry, he put on his angry head. If he was happy, he put on his happy head.
So it looked the same. It just had a different expression.
Yeah, he was like, whatever. And his girlfriend, friend, whatever, was a doll who came to life named Aunt Sally. And Aunt Sally and Wurzel went around the countryside getting up to adventures with a couple of kids. That's basically the... Hey, I never said English TV in the 70s and 80s was good.
But that's the thing. Like, why did they choose the scarecrow as the symbol for that? Because in the UK, I would imagine it would have been, maybe it was more neutral at that time. But then again, we have like what was it? 1981, Dark Night of the Scarecrow. No, it was horror then.
Scarecrows were still pretty, they were spooky for sure. But he was friendly. He was a good guy. Maybe they were trying to, kind of do like a PR boost on the scarecrow. They're like, too many people are scared of scarecrows.
They couldn't have said the friendly scarecrow instead of giving him that long name.
What would the friendly scarecrow could be a trap. Like,
like Casper.
Let's go see the friendly scarecrow.
Yeah.
You're like,
like Casper, the friendly ghost.
Yeah.
We all love Casper.
Okay, then you can call him Wurzel Gummidge, the friendly scarecrow. But his name is Wurzel Gummidge.
So did you know that there is a phobia for scarecrows?
I didn't, but I believe it.
It's called formidophobia.
Formidophobia.
Yeah, and it is the fear of scarecrows. So you initiate a response much like any other phobia where you see a scarecrow and then it kind of triggers something internally.
Is it still a phobia if it's reasonable to be scared of something? Like, they're called a scarecrow. Like, I could understand if they're called a friendly crow and you're like, oh, I'm scared of them. Be like, why are you scared of a friendly crow? I can't remember exactly where it was, but in Montreal, years and years and years ago, there was a scarecrow. During the day, it was, whatever, it's a scarecrow. At night, it was creepy.
Yeah.
Because all you can see is silhouette.
Yeah.
There was something eerie about it. Like,
I bet you that's where it started.
Yeah, it was unsettling.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Can you imagine, though, a field of like, I don't know, 46 of them?
Nope.
At night, like that, I think that would be even more scary.
Why? Why would anybody? You don't need that many.
No, not unless you are in Nova Scotia and you are in fact Joe's Scarecrow Village.
Okay, that literally just sounds like we're making.
I know. Okay, stay with me. So
everything. Not unless you're in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, let's just look down this list.
Yeah.
So Joe Delaney was a retired school janitor who had a vegetable garden on his property back in 1984. He and his sons built 3 scarecrows. And it was just like intended to do what scarecrows do, keep the birds away, right? So just a super innocent approach. They set them up. Following morning, charter bus and several cars came by, parked on the side of the road, and there were more than 50 people in his field looking at the scarecrow and taking pictures.
What?
So just to.
And he didn't advertise this. He just built scarecrows, put them in the field.
Yeah, exactly. So these must have been some pretty interesting scarecrows.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that this is right next to a very popular hiking route, like the John Cabot Trail or something. So it's a high
trail. Yeah.
It's a very, high touristy area anyway. So a charter bus rolling up would make sense. And then they probably just thought, whoa, what is that? Maybe they didn't have scarecrows.
Or especially if the driver's driven that route, as they do 100 times, 200 times. And then suddenly he's like, oh, that's new.
What is that?
Yeah.
And so then it inspired him to create a total of 12 scarecrows. And then it just kind of grew from there. So in 1985, there was about 30. In 1986, there was 46.
Now it's real easy for things like that to go viral.
Yeah.
I lived in the Maritimes. I never heard of Joe Scarecrow Village.
Yeah, exactly. There was no social media back then, but can you imagine if there was?
Joe would have been
like Joe Exotic,
exactly
that famous, you know? But my favorite part was in 1986, because there's this big event that happened called the 1986 Massacre.
Oh my God.
So this 1986 massacre happened when 45 of the 46 scarecrows were destroyed. They were broken, cut apart, beyond repair. Somebody came and vandalized this scarecrow farm. I don't even know why they did it. I don't know if it was to have fun or if they had something against Joe. They thought Joe was getting too popular. Who knows?
Maybe it was Steve Scarecrow Town. Did anybody look at it?
Maybe it was Scary Styles.
Yeah.
But then Delaney then decided to send out a letter to the town posing as the remaining lone survivor named Rory, and then ended up getting a whole bunch of community donations of people who appreciated the scarecrow farm, and they funded 100 more scarecrows.
Okay.
So in this field, you could find a wedding party, fishermen, school children, celebrities and politicians as well, like Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, and even members of the band Kiss. But they're all tall.
I don't like this.
They've all got they're very well done. The attention to detail is pretty incredible. Hey, there's one sitting.
You never think of a scarecrow sitting.
No, and also you never think of a scarecrow being anything but human related. I mean, look at how big this field is too. So you can kind of see it's this big open field. You go in and then you just kind of go down the line and you can take pictures with all the scarecrows. It doesn't even look like they're taking admission. So anyway, yeah. So I thought this was pretty interesting that, a little piece of scarecrow history in Canada. And I mean, across Canada, you're going to be seeing scarecrow festivals kind of popping up everywhere. From just a light research, there was one in Wainwright, Alberta, that happens every September. There's a little town called Lumsden in Saskatchewan, Charlottetown, Nova Scotia. There's probably, scarecrow festivals all across North America.
Well, in England, and it's not really a scarecrow. Have you ever heard of Guy Fawkes?
No.
Okay, so it's Guy, G-U-I, like store dad. And Fawkes, F-A-W-K-E-S. He was a real historical figure back in 1500s, 1600s maybe. So yeah, Guy Fawkes tunneled under the British Parliament and put a ton of explosive barrels, and he was going to blow them up. Because he said the English Parliament was very corrupt.
Is that where Game of Thrones got it?
Oh.
That was literally a plot in Game of Thrones,
It was. Cersei blew up the set.
Yes, she did. Oh, I wonder if that was inspired.
And Westeros is basically England.
Yes. Ooh.
George R.R. Martin.
Okay, so Guy Fawkes under the Parliament.
So they caught him and they executed him as a criminal. One of his gang ratted him out. So on November 5th, so we didn't celebrate Halloween in England. Nobody dressed up. You went out carrying your stupid little turnip. But 5 days later was bonfire night.
Okay.
And kids would go around and do penny for the guy. And people would make a guy, so Guy Fawkes. Then you would put him on top of the bonfire and then you would burn him in effigy. And then you would fire off fireworks as a symbolism as if the explosives had gone off. And that is celebrated around England. There was food and everything else. But for 5-10 days, whatever, before November 5th, you would see people going all over the place carrying these guys.
Basically like a scarecrow or effigy thing.
And they would carry them around everywhere. And then on November 5th, you set them on top of the bonfire and then you light the fire and you watch it and it burns. And then when the guy falls into the fire, as he eventually does, you enter cheer and...
Wow.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting because Ecuador does something similar for New Year's. They will actually create like scarecrow type structures, and then they will burn them at the end of the new year. And it's sort of like a sign of sort of getting rid of the bad and then welcoming the good. Okay, so with that same thing, there's also a bunch of superstitions that happen around scarecrows. So the first one is the placement of a scarecrow. Don't face a scarecrow towards your house.
Yeah, no, I don't like that one.
Right? Like, can you imagine being in your house and you look out in the field? I mean, it's scary enough at night, but like during the day, and then you just get staring at you with this big smiley face.
It sounds like one of those rules, like don't feed your mogwai after midnight or it turns into a gremlin. Like, that doesn't sound like a superstition. That sounds like a rule. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Yeah, I know. It's very unsettling. Like, it seems like something out of like a Stephen King novel. Yeah, like the pure placement of a scarecrow could be enough of a scary plot.
That's a good horror movie. You got a house and they put up the scarecrow and then people go around and they turn the scarecrow so it faces the house. And that's the plot of Amityville Scarecrow 3. The facening.
Okay, but that's placement of the scarecrow. So very superstitious. Don't point it towards your house. Another superstition is timing. It's bad luck to erect a scarecrow before Easter, and they must be burned down before November 1st, or else bad luck will plague your entire family.
You burn them?
You burn them.
What?
And kind of like when we were talking about the Greeks and how it's sort of like a sign of fertility and good fortune on your land. So it's kind of that same thing where, you burn it with the harvest.
You can't put it up before Easter and then you've got to burn it. And it's like...
I know there's so many things you have to remember, like don't wear white after Labor Day. And
yeah, but nobody's like, don't wear white after Labor Day, otherwise the scarecrow is going to come into your house and kill you. It's like, don't wear white after Labor Day. That's gauche. Yeah. Like, whatever, man. Like...
Okay, well, there's one more.
That's a superstition. These don't sound like superstitions. These sound like creepy rules. That's all I'm saying.
There's one more creepy rule then, if you will. It's about dressing and respecting your scarecrow. And it's kind of like trying to keep on the good list with Santa. So it's like treat your scarecrow well, and they will look after your harvest, essentially.
But there's a flip side to that. What if you don't treat them well? Is it just they won't look after your harvest? Or you're going to wake up at night and you're going to be hung
your
up in the field?
fields will dry up and die.
Oh, that's reasonable.
He's going to set your flame, your harvest to flame.
I just picture like you don't follow these rules and then one night you're like, you're uncomfortable in bed and you wake up and you're not in bed. You're hung in the field and you're a scarecrow.
The scarecrow sees you when you're sleeping. I don't know. Have you ever seen Santa and the Scarecrow in the same room? We don't know. Be good.
I'm out.
So anyway, those were just some like fun superstitions that has to do with scarecrows. Obviously, like today, scarecrows, as we mentioned, aren't incredibly, topical just because there's been lots of advancements in technology. So especially when we're talking about our gardens today, what are some ways that you can discourage birds from eating your crops?
Not a scarecrow at all.
You could totally build a scarecrow though.
You know, the best way, of course, to keep birds off of your fruits and vegetables is a physical barrier.
Okay. So like netting?
Yeah, exactly. Netting, fencing. People, you might drape fabric over it. Now, if you're growing tons all over your property, like that's the corner for my raspberries, and I do rhubarb over here and blueberry and whatever. A lot of people really love the Mylar reflective tape, or they put CDs up.
And so the point of that is like, it's just showing that somebody's there kind of thing?
Apparently, no. I always thought that too. Apparently... So when it spins, when the Mylar tape is blowing in the wind or the CDs are moving, and the light hits it,
Yep.
they can't judge the distance. It throws off their sense and they fly away. They don't like it. They'll go elsewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's actually like it's uncomfortable for them.
Is that kind of the same with those like sonar, radar, or what do you call those?
The sound, sonic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently it emits a sound that, again, it makes life very uncomfortable for them.
Huh.
So and the good thing about that as well, it doesn't hurt them.
Yes.
Right. It's like us. Like you look at like a bright light and you go, you turn your head. It no longer bothers you.
Mm-hmm.
Same with them. They're like, oh, no, I don't like that. So they just go elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is, kind of, a take on the scarecrow, if you will, is putting up the owls or the hawks.
Right. They're like the plastic things. Yeah,
exactly. And they're made to be like life size. And you see people put them on their fence or their house or their garage.
Yeah.
And then the birds go, oh, there's a predator bird there. So they don't go.
Yeah. But I've heard that those ones, like you have to keep moving them. Is that right?
They say that, but they've, so we have some downstairs now and we've got some, one of them has got like a 4-foot wingspan and the wings move. And it's not mechanical. You don't need batteries. They move in the breeze.
Oh, wow.
So that tells the birds that there's bobblehead ones that the head will turn and move.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there is battery ones. There are motion sensors now. So you put motion sensors in your garden. If something comes into the garden, you sprinkler, it's on and it turns on. Like basically it opens a valve and it shoots water at whatever's in your garden.
Will it shoot it at it or just in general?
Yep, that area.
Oh, okay.
It's not laser sighted.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. No, it just kind of does. And they don't like it. I've never used that. I know I would hate it because I know how my brain is. I'd get up in the morning. I'd be having my coffee. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go look at my tomatoes. And
exactly.
I'd be soaked.
So, but you could get burglars.
Oh, that would be fun too.
Ooh.
Oh, that's like Home Alone styles.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like Home Alone styles. But any of those, if you're going to use netting, the only thing I say about that is just be careful because the birds don't always see it, and if they get tangled up in it, you can hurt them, and that's never the goal. It's if something isn't trying to eat your garden isn't part of the ecosystem. That being said, we're not growing our gardens for the animals to come and destroy it. So just keep an eye on nettings. Birds may get caught in it. You may have to release them. Mm-hmm. But netting does work. Physical barriers work great.
You know what I've always been interested in is if you put up bird seeds, so you're still kind of benefiting crows and those corvids.
Yeah.
Corvids? Yeah. Okay. So if you are benefiting some corvids and you want to put up seed elsewhere to kind of like deter them from eating your vegetables, would that help? Or is that just being like, here's more food for you?
Yeah, I think if you really don't want the birds in your garden, don't put up bird food.
Okay.
I come in and, I go to your house and you're like, hey, it's supper time. And, Jenny and I are there and you're like, burgers. Well, I'm going to eat a burger.
Yeah.
But I come to your house and you're like, full buffet. I'm not just going to eat the burger. I'm going to have some chips and I'm going to have some crackers. And so same kind of thing. They're going to come and they're going to be like, oh, thanks for the seed. Going to grab a couple of raspberries on my way out. Hope you don't mind. So I would say probably not. So if I wanted to do that, I would put my bird seed out and then I would put the Mylar tape around my veggies.
Okay.
I would do something like that. So it would be like, don't come over here, but you're very welcome here.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you can have the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, if you enjoyed this discussion on scarecrows, let us know. If you were scared by this discussion on scarecrows, also let us know.
If you watched Whistle Gummidge, please also let me know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also very curious on that. But that does wrap us up for this week. If you're watching over on YouTube or Spotify, give us a subscribe, give us a like, send us a comment. Let us know what we should be dressed up for Halloween next week. There's a question box down on Spotify and you can give us your ideas and then we'll pull one and then we'll make it happen for you next week. It's going to be a fun episode. We always have fun on this holiday. I know last year we did like, what was it? A chat GPT story.
Yeah, that was so funny.
It was awesome. So we really can't wait to have fun with you next weekend.
We also ate candy.
We did eat candy.
Yeah.
We tried some like UK candy or something like that.
Yeah, well, you got those vegan gummies.
Oh, Colin the Caterpillar.
Colin the Caterpillar, they were so good.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I love that.
Yeah.
So needless to say, we're very excited for next week and we hope that you'll join us next week. Make sure again to, no, that's it. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Really?